Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today's video, I'm going to show you why you should definitely consider buying this Makita 16 gauge nailer. I put this nailer through its paces. I trimmed out an entire room with it. I only use this nailer. I wanted to see how many nails in a realistic scenario, not that BS, you know, let's put a 2x4 up and just fire nails into it and then call it good. I really wanted to use it. I wanted to work with it. I wanted to use different types of wood that were practical. I wanted to use it in a real world application where we were going up against studs, potentially hitting a nailing plate. I really wanted to use it before I just did a review on it. There's so many videos out there, and thumbs up if you agree with this, that they get a tool home, they take it out of the box and they go, oh man, this is the greatest thing ever. They never used it before in their life. They have no idea if it's actually going to perform under not so perfect conditions. Meaning, for something like this, it would be, you see all the time the benchtop, videos, they're just doing this and they're running the gun, right? And everything's perfect. But what about when you're up against a wall and you're on a ladder and you're really, you're really trying to hulk this thing up in the corner and really try to get, that corner nail done, where you may be going up against a crappy stud behind it, or hell, you may even hit a nailing plate or whatever. How does it perform? Does it kick back? Does it double fire? What's the situation? Does it jam? That's all the kind of stuff I put this thing up against. And I can proudly say, after running over 500 nails out of this thing, not one misfire, not one double nailer, nothing. Every single nail from start to finish drove perfectly fine. And I cannot say the same for comparable nailers. Like, here's my little cheapo Porter cable nailer that I've used forever. It's replacing this one here. This is a great nailer, but it's got its issues. It sometimes will double, sometimes it'll jam, sometimes it'll drive one kind of wonky, and you got to tap it in with a nail set. This does not do that. I'm going to bring up a couple of caveats real fast if you guys are on the fence about buying this. I will also pipe in some footage of me actually using the nailer so you can see it in action. You're going to definitely want to run with some hearing protection. Now, I ran with just those foam plugs. These are hanging up in my barn right here, so I grabbed them. This thing is loud. It's got a real snappy, fast actuation noise. It's louder than a pneumatic nailer. It doesn't do that little hiss pop sound. It's got this real powerful snap. So if you're working in an empty room, like in the situation I was, where it's just pretty much an acoustic sound box, you're going to definitely want to put hearing protection on. I'm telling you, it'll make your ears ring. Always do that anyway. I mean, your hearing is so important. That's one caveat. Second caveat, because this thing is built so well, it's heavy. 8 pounds, tool only, about 10 pounds with a battery in it. So if you're lugging this thing around all day on the construction site, or you're doing a project with it, it gets be pretty stout. It's not bad. You'll be fine using it, but you're going to notice it in your hand. It's not like waving around some light pneumatic gun. You do have to consider the battery. It's very well balanced, but a lot of your weight's coming out of your head here where your plungers and your pistons are. A lot of the weight's coming out of here at the bottom. So it is balanced, but it is something to note. Another thing I want to note, to prove that I used it, I didn't wear gloves. It will wear the shit out of your thumb right here. When you're holding on this thing, you can see right where my thumb makes contact here, and you're really getting on this thing, you're going to be grinding your thumb into the back of this stop. It's going to eat up your thumb. So there's your little war wound about me actually using it. You do also need to have a pretty strong hand. If you kind of limp wrist it when you fire off a nail, you're going to have a problem. You need to make sure that when that nail goes down, you don't allow it to give any resistance or kickback back out. That's what's going to cause an improper fire. So a lot of this crap with your thumb is going to happen because you're really, trying to hold that nailer in place. It's not hard to use. It's very good. Another thing to note before I show the footage, if you look on the side, made in Japan, okay? Some people, they don't care about this, but in my experience, the Japanese Makita stuff tends to be built a lot more robust than the Chinese stuff. Everybody's sending their stuff overseas. There's no there's no way around it, unfortunately, in the game of these types of tools. Makita does it, DeWalt does it, I think. And just to show you, I'm not just a Makita fanboy. I also am on the DeWalt platform. Need to get some new batteries. So Milwaukee does it. It's unavoidable. But the Japanese stuff, in my opinion, definitely is usually they're more expensive stuff. Usually they're more well-built stuff that's going to have to take a beating. They usually produce that stuff over in Japan. This shoots 1-inch to 2.5-inch nails. I ran 2.5 through it the entire time. Not one hiccup. I also want to say in this video, I was not endorsed by Makita to do this video. They didn't ask me to do this video. They didn't send me the nailer for free to do the video. I bought it for $302 on Amazon. It stung when I bought it because I'm like, man, I already have a pneumatic setup. You know, it's not so, it's not such an essential purchase. But number one, I have a small house. I did not want to have my compressor kicking on all day long. My wife's pregnant. Didn't want to have her deal with that kind of stress on and off, kick on. Didn't feel like tripping over a damn air hose the entire time, already in a tight spot. Saw this thing, decided to go for it. And I said, you know what? If it's good, I'll do a video on it. If it's bad, I'll do a video on it. But I wanted to put it out there. Let me show some nailing footage here as I'm talking, so you can kind of see how this thing works. And what I'm showing you here is just me running. I'm keeping the sound low because it is a little bit of a trigger warning for dogs and everything else. So I'm going to keep the sound way down on the nailer actually firing off. My dogs hate the sound. But you can see in this footage, the nailer drives the nail perfect every time through this the shiplap is real weird. It's hard in some spots, soft in some spots. You know, I'm going into a stud wall here in this footage. Sometimes there's a nailing plate. I know that there's nailing plates in the wall. I didn't know where they were. I don't know if it hit any, but it drives it perfect every time. It just leaves a tiny, tiny, tiny little indentation of where the nail was. So here's the room I was just telling you about on the initial part of the video. What I did was a bunch of board and batten stuff. You follow my channel, you saw the video on this already. Every one of these planks is glued and nailed, but let me show you what I mean, this nailer. If you look at these holes, they're not very deep and they're perfectly flush. So it gets the nail in there and doesn't do that little double divot that some of those cheaper nail guns do. And you can see every single one of the nails that was driven in this wall. Absolutely perfect, flawless. Can't be happier with it. So if we look over here, again, where I drove it into just the regular yellow pine, you could see everything is set perfectly. There's no nails sticking up anywhere. So that's just definitely something I wanted to note here. Here's another example. Nice and flush. Look at that. Look at that nice little indentation it leaves. It's perfect. Easily filled. So let me show you here some of the settings on this thing that you're going to want to know about. There's only 3. There's this little switch right here. This goes from single fire mode to bump fire mode. And the only thing that means is that if you go into bump fire mode, you hold your finger down on the trigger and you can just leave your finger held down and just run nails as fast as you want to push. You go into single fire mode, you have to depress, pull the nail gun, depress, pull the trigger, depress, pull the trigger. That's that switch. There's a lockout switch right here that you will not accidentally push. They have a nice detent in here where you're not going to accidentally push this and lock yourself out when you're in a tight space. If you do ever get a jam, which I can proudly say I did not get a jam, but if you do, you lift this little thing up and roll it back. You can clear your jam out of here, instantly go back in. A lot of the nailers, I think, do this nowadays, but it's something to note. Another thing to note, before I shoot myself in the face here, take the battery out. Another thing to note, this little silicone plasticky bumper that comes with this, I did an entire project with this. This thing didn't come off at all. I can't say the same for my porta cable. It's already missing on that one. Very tough. Nice, tough, robust bumper. I didn't have any drag issues or locking issues here with the safety detents. Everything works well. To load the gun, all you do is pull your thumb back. You can pull your nails out just like this, or with that locked back, you just drop them in like that. And you just simply take this and push it, and it pushes it back, keeps the spring tension on here. You're ready to go again. Some things to note on the construction and build quality of this thing. If you guys are still hanging with me here, these are all things that matter when it comes to tool quality. It's got these rubber protection bumpers everywhere the tool makes contact with the surface. And why is that important? Well, if we look at the Porter cable, there's none of that here, meaning that this is all metal. You can see right here where it's worn down, where I've used it over the years. If you guys are in a customer's house and you're setting this thing down on their granite countertop, or you're setting this thing, you're doing some hardwood floors and you're setting this thing down on those floors, you can bet your ass that that's going to scratch the floor up. Not cool at all. Every contact point on this thing, you know, is rough plastics, metal. This may not look like a big deal to you, but I tell you what, you're down on the floor, you lean down to get up off the floor, and you have this in your hands, and you put a big old gouge in your customer's floor, you're going to wish you had those bumpers. So if you look at the Makita setup, it's got the overmold protection on the back. This is all rubberized, right? So it's got the overmold protection on the back, also on the side. So it will not mar up any surface. Also, down here has the same thing. I'm sweating like a pig out here. Right here. So if this is sitting up against the floor, it's not going to scratch anything. This is also like a polymer plastic, real hard stuff, kind of like the way a Glock handle is, like on a firearm, if you've ever held one of those. Real tough stuff, but it's not metal, so it's not going to scratch up the floor. Definitely something to note when it comes to this stuff. You want to make sure that if you're going to be using this in any situation, it's not going to ruin your project. So if this video helped you at all, I really hope it did. There's so many videos out there where they just, like I said, they pull them out of the box. Oh yeah, look at this, it's shiny. You get this, here's the instruction manual. Oh wow, it's great. Oh yeah, rate, comment, and subscribe video. It doesn't tell you anything. You don't know, if you just don't know how it works. So if this video helped you at all, please thumbs up the video. Please subscribe to the channel. I promise you, you will learn something throughout the year if you subscribe. And if you did buy one of these, or if you are running one of these, I really do want to hear from you in the comments. So make sure you put down below what your experience is, because I like to kind of keep my channel as an open forum. So thanks for watching, guys. If you're on the fence about it, it's $303. It's not cheap, but you don't need to buy a compressor. You don't need to buy an air hose. I think it balances out at the end of the day. So if you enjoyed the video, please subscribe, and I'll get you in the next one. Later.